Hello, everyone, and welcome to EGFH Season 1, Week 2. This is Superman, and today I'm joined by Vic Sharp. Today we're going to be starting off with a match between Danger Perps and Gael Goons. We're right here into Champion Select, so let's get talking right about this pick and ban. Vic Sharp, what do you got for me so far?
I'm going to be really interested to actually see how this pick ban works. We're on the newest patch. Obviously, some of the big things, the nerfed Ardent to an extent, but also the overpowered Galio. We'll have to see if any of these teams have kind of put time on it to see it today.
Yeah, the Draven being banned out there, kind of interesting. And normally don't see that coming through, at least in this meta. He has been strong in solo queue, but he's not one of those later game scaling AD carries like the Twitch, like that Tristana that we've seen so popular, both in competitive play and in this previous week for EGFH. Go ahead.
Oh, absolutely. But, like you said, this is EGFH. This is high school. It's such a different meta. It's such a different game. We're seeing the things like the Draven and a Darius Hover just kind of shows. But, who cares that Ardent Sensor's been nerfed? We're going to pick Taric anyway.
Yeah, Taric really strong in that front line. He has that just about still a point-and-click stun. It used to be, long time ago for Taric. But now that the line stun is still very, very strong. Decides to take summoner spells. That's always an interesting choice for Darius in the top lane. He can have a real variety of different summoner spells and keystones. I'll be very interested to see what he actually ends up choosing.
Yeah, absolutely. And with the Warwick locked in as well for the Gael Goons, we'll have to see what the Green Knights answer with, and it actually will be the Jarvan. Interesting that you pick a Warwick while the Jarvan's up. Obviously, much more standard. So the Green Knights, fast and furious pick so far.
Yeah, they seem to know exactly what they're wanting. The Jarvan really strong for those early ganks. Warwick definitely relies on his red buff uptime, but Azir gets blind picked on red side. This is really interesting to me because it makes sense to choose your bottom lane support. There's no real counter picks in the current meta. Jarvan, just a really strong pick overall to match that Warwick. And then, of course, picking your top lane to match. There's no problem choosing your top laner when you've already seen the enemy team, but look, red side picking Azir, who just got nerfed on this patch. Not necessarily the strongest or most common picks in that mid lane, picked blind already this early in the draft.
Yeah, you say not the most common, but obviously he saw a lot of play on the previous patch before that little nerf. And again, guys, sorry for that really small DC we had. We should be back up and running now. Thank you for kind of bearing with that. But yeah, I love Azir as a blind pick, actually, even with the small nerf on this patch. I think he's one of the mid laners that kind of brings everything to the table that you need.
Absolutely. He can bully out most early laners, at least in the levels like 1 through 4. The Azir can be really strong. Setting up, his soldiers to sit by those caster minions. And then as soon as you think that you're safe to walk up and get some CS, then he'll just move those soldiers closer to you, get a nice Thunderlord's proc, and be able to back off for that free trade. And then as the game gets later and later, we know how much damage an Azir can put out as the game gets in that 40, 50-minute mark. If it ever goes that far, Azir almost gets a free win with the kind of damage that he can put out.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can't tell if it's confidence from the Gael Goons, but a no ban to finalize kind of their ban phase, and needing a bot lane here with so many AD carries off the table. So many things disappeared, but Xayah's still here, Superman.
Dang, I can't believe that some of these picks have actually gotten through. The Taric is fine. You go through those early bans and you know that there's going to be some very strong picks that will still be available, but having the Azir come through, get blind picked, and still be wondering what's left over for that mid lane, it's very curious. The Xayah coming through while Rakan's still on the table, and if the support's already been picked, the bans aren't left, right? There's no more bans available for blue side, meaning this last pick here could be that Rakan to fill that support role and match the Xayah. Maybe a Thresh, though.
We'll have to see. I would like the Thresh here a lot. It exemplifies their pick potential. You're going against a Lucian Taric. You kind of need a way to reset the lane, move around quickly, and Thresh's Lantern provides that for the Gael Goons. I'm really interested to see because it seems a lot more standard for the Green Knights here, but Gael Goons have a lot of exciting things coming out.
They do. I like the draft for both of these as well. Like the top lane seems to be a real gritty fight, between these two types of fighter champions, Renekton, Darius. Either one of them could take that lane and just run with it if they get the correct kind of jungle pressure. And in the jungle, both of these champions do have really fast clears on their first rotations in the jungle, and having double buffs is actually really strong for both of these champions. And then looking at that mid lane matchup, we talked about how Azir can bully the early, but actually Syndra, I don't think there's a better champion in the mid lane to bully early on than Syndra. And you already talked about that bottom lane. Should be rather explosive. I like that Thresh pick, even though it's not the Rakan. He does still kind of fill that role of initiation to follow up, say, a Warwick play, or an option to replace a Warwick. But I'll be curious to see which of these teams prioritize early dragons, early towers, because neither one of these AD carries are very well known for pushing down towers early like a Tristana would.
Oh, absolutely. I will say both of these teams have such explosive team fights, though. I'm not really going to see this game being a siege-heavy objective game just because these two teams are just going to want to go at each other once that first tower starts to fall. And honestly, I'm just happy with Gael Goons. They gave us 2 bird champions, and your name is Superman. The puns make themselves at this point.
Pretty much. We'll have to see how those play out. But talk to me about this. We're in the 2 minutes remaining on that spectator delay. While we're getting closer and closer to loading into Summoner's Rift, I'm curious, where do you think these junglers will put their early pressure? Because it seems like every lane is gankable at this point.
I agree. Every lane is gankable. I honestly think the powder keg in this is top lane. Because if either of these top laners get ahead, it could spell disaster for the enemy team. Obviously, both Renekton and Darius, 2 of the better AD carry split pushers, or AD split pushers in that top half. And while the rest of the map is so even, just giving your team that advantage in that important of a lane could be what they use to snowball.
Absolutely. That's a scary thing to think of, a Darius getting far ahead. We are now into the spectator delay, and you can kind of see, I don't know why Riot's client still does this, but you can barely see the side of the summoner spells for red team. And you can see it's a TP flash for Darius. You don't see that ghost or ignite or any one of those more aggressive summoner spells. But I almost wish he would have, right? That Darius can be so scary in just the 1v1. If he has those aggressive summoner spells, you have to respect his dot damage. You have to make sure that you're safe, not being able to get just chased down with like a Storm Raiders proc or something like that. But with those summoner spells as they are, should be that explosive matchup as you described.
And you mentioned summoner spells. It could be so key for Gael Goons here that they have that TP advantage. Obviously, Azir taking that teleport where Syndra took the heal. So this makes me see the reason kind of that Darius took that more standard TP flash to work with his team. We could be looking at 5 people bot as soon as we hit level 6.
We very well could. I mean, if you just have a level 6 Azir that can throw people away from their own turret in one of those dives, it should be extremely potent to have Thresh follow up on something like that. Azir, if he can use his flash properly, can definitely reposition to be able to pull off such a play. But the Syndra heal, I'm not sure if I agree with it. Like, if you're worried about burst potential, you're much better off with Barrier. And if you're worried about repositioning, you're much better off with like Ghost or Teleport if it's repositioning on the entire map. It's interesting as well. I want your thoughts on the choice to take Exhaust for each of these supports. Pretty standard, Exhaust or Ignite for Thresh. But Taric, we've been seeing in the current meta, at least prior to this patch with the nerfs to Ardent Sensor, Heal has been the standard choice for supports, with Barrier then being taken or Cleanse if necessary for the AD carries. Why the Exhaust, do you think?
I actually love it in this case for 2 reasons. One, with the bit of an Ardent nerf, the heal isn't as potent, and Taric's heal actually comes up relatively quickly, especially during team fights where he can kind of be in the front line. So he doesn't necessarily need the heal summoner. But when you have a Warwick that's going to be ulting onto your team, when you have a Darius that's going to be looking to pop off and get resets, and even just things like a Xayah who likes to go forward and then kind of ult back, that Exhaust has so many usages in these fights.
Yeah, a lot of short range on Gael Goons side, right? You got to have the Thresh in their close range. The Warwick and Darius are going to be right up in your faces. You mentioned Zaya's range and playing a little bit forward. Azir really the only one who will be really far back. Unless, of course, as I described earlier, he makes one of those really divey plays to reposition the entire fight, split it up. If he gets in that close and personal, then you throw the exhaust onto the high damage champion like Azir. You're definitely going to change the fight with that spell. Great points there. But Vic, we're right here on to Summoner's Rift. Again, this is week 2, game 1. We're just going to have the one game today, and this is Green Knights on blue versus Gael Goons on red side. Welcome to Summoner's Rift. We're right into this match.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm going to be so kind of interested to watch this early game because we hit on it so much, how much freedom these junglers could have in these first 5-10 minutes of the game. The first gank could really set the tone for the team here.
Yeah, it definitely can. As I mentioned earlier, you're going to have those faster clears for these junglers. They're going to be very quick to get their double buffs, and if they start on the bottom side, you know you'll end up top side in that explosive area of the map like you talked about. They're going to end up top side with those first rounds of double buffs. But it looks like some on the way pings. Red might be stacking, looking for an invade here.
Yeah, I don't necessarily blame them. You know, Thresh, Warwick, a pretty decent combo at level 1, depending on what Warwick has leveled. It looks like he's gone for the Q, so maybe we're just looking for a cheeky misposition from the Green Knights, but nothing too explosive.
Yeah, really interesting to see that Thresh did indeed skill up his death sentence already. Normally you don't see many champion or many players choosing to pick their first spell on their champion until they know precisely what it is they're going to get out of that level 1. Although it's not a huge disadvantage of any sort, it's just with that Targon, the Relic Shield itself, I've noticed it makes it very difficult for Thresh players to get those last hits on the minions without that extra on-hit damage from that scaling passive on the E itself.
Oh, absolutely. But one fun thing to note that I'm going to be keeping my eye on this bot lane through the first couple levels. Taric leveled the stun at level 1. Obviously, kind of standard to help with the jungle clear. But that combined with the death sentence from Thresh means I'm looking for a level 1 or level 2 play in the bot lane.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting which of them starts that, because both of them can input buffer their crowd control spell, while the other one is currently hitting them with it. You know, the Thresh can start winding up while stunned, right? He starts input buffering that spell, and during the stun, he's animating that hook. And the reverse could be true. Right as the hook is coming through and about to hit that target, he can set up that stun to block further engaged follow-up to that hook. So looks like the early push is in favor of the Green Knights, though. So we'll have to see how this bottom lane plays out once these players hit level 2.
Yeah, something so crucial to note, though. Gael Goons actually got a ward on the Green Knights blue buff, and it saw the Jarvan go take that buff. They know exactly where he is in this game. So great starting vision from Gael Goons.
Yeah, and I didn't actually notice who exactly put that ward down, but whoever did definitely saves the top lane from being early ganked without knowledge. They know that the Jarvan's on this top side, likely still doing camps. The ward has expired on the buff itself, and there's not one in the river to know where exactly the Jarvan is at this point. But we've got these level 2s down here. There wasn't that explosive level 1, but with them pushing up and the vision so limited, either one of these supports could be looking for an engaged play.
Yeah, and you mentioned the Zaya's range. You know, we talked about some. This is where it also hurts her in this early game, but we have a fight top.
Oh, the knockup does land flanker drag good. There's the flash away. The red buff is ticking down. That's a lot of slow. One more auto might do it. The Q comes through. That call not actually going to be enough damage to take down the Darius. He gets away, but his flash is down.
Apparently Darius is not meek in this game, Superman. The call doesn't kill him, and Warwick sitting on a ward. It almost looked like Green Knights wanted to go for that kill maybe, but backing out, forcing Darius's TP, such a big advantage already, unless, you know, Renekton decides to TP back himself. But that first gank, it doesn't get the kill, but it gets pressure.
Yeah, and I don't know if I agree with the idea of actually backing off there. I think you can. If either or both of you actually flash in to get an extra auto attack, you secure the kill. His flash is down. There's nothing he can actually do. You know for sure you guarantee that first blood. You're already so healthy. When they actually backed off from diving the turret, then they still had 3/4 health on either one of their champions. Yes, Warwick might have been on a ward showing up on the wings and maybe scared them off a little bit, but you know, he's just a wolf in the jungle. You can clear that camp already as Jarvan, so when that wolf shows up in the top lane and you have that much health, I wouldn't be afraid.
Yeah, and we're going to see a little fight over the... Well, not much of a fight as Warwick just comes in and chomps it away. The junglers finding themselves kind of tracking each other really well through these first 5 minutes. Hesitant to let the other kind of get the advantage.
Yeah, they've been showing up in the same places. They're pathing almost identical, but blue team is pushed up here in this bottom lane, still shoving into the turret, securing a small CS advantage in favor of Lucian. As we do look for those stuns, this Taric playing actually relatively far forward. He's looked for a handful of those different stuns, but hasn't been able to have one land just yet.
Yeah, and we're actually seeing the result of that Renekton not getting the kill and then backing, actually down 16 CS. And yes, he has his teleport, but now he no longer has wave pressure in the top side.
Yeah, there's a stun that does actually land in the bottom lane. With that pressure on the top side, on the top side of the map, it actually gives a lot of breathing room to blue team. They know that if Darius is going to be pushed up there, then Renekton doesn't have to be worried about pressure, meaning they can put that vision on the bottom side of the map as soon as they come back with, say, a Sightstone or something like that. Blue team here, Green Knights, they can be pushed up in the bottom lane and feel safer because they don't have to worry about their top laner being aggressive while they're trying to be aggressive as well. They can play towards that bottom side of the map, set up counter ganks, but up here on the top lane, this Darius having the pressure, pushing in this Renekton, he's winning these trades rather handily, even with his flash down.
Yeah, and it's actually interesting to note, it looks like he went Grasp of the Undying, so not going for the Storm Raiders Dunk Master quick Darius, instead looking for that lane pressure, looking for those lane trades. A double stun bot lane though.
But also a stun in the mid lane. There's the ult that comes down. The first blood is a solo kill in mid lane. That unleashed power just doing so much. We talked about the teleport being available for the Azir. No barrier, no heal, and he doesn't actually have the health to resist that kind of damage coming through. So Syndra, without having to use a single summoner spell, secures first blood in a 1v1. But up here in this top lane, looks like Renekton's also getting rather aggressive, but he's got full stacks from that Darius passive. Does Darius have the true damage to come through? There's a blue wave. Darius very low. Will he turn around with the dunk? No, he's got 100 health remaining. There's a solo kill return. Both solo laners get a solo kill in favor of Green Knights.
Man, catastrophe kind of across the map for the Gael Goons. The Renekton winning the duel that he probably had no business at that point winning. The minions kind of doing so much work for him, as well as just smart pathing, staying away from the Darius. And as you said, that solo kill in the mid lane, so important because Azir, as we talked about, has that late game, has that scaling. If you just don't let him get there, Syndra's going to do so much work in this mid game.
Yeah, and with that early lead, she's going to have that Lost Chapter on top of the Fiendish Codex. She's got the Mana Pool, she's got the cooldown reduction. That means definitely she'll have the pressure, the priority in this mid lane, be able to push out that Azir. Even if she can't land the poke, she's definitely going to shove those waves into turret. Make it so that Azir can't roam, he can't leave, he can't use his teleport, which he did already use to return to lane. These solo laners for Grey Goons, like, they're so far behind now, both in CS and in, oh, excuse me, I guess Darius is up, but with Azir in particular, as you mentioned, he's down in CS, he's down in levels, he's down in pressure and kills. He's just in a really bad spot, down almost 800 gold overall.
Yeah, and we talked about kind of the accelerated pace of the jungle. There's a 20 CS difference in the jungle, and that was just kind of how, because of how much time Warwick had to babysit his solo lanes a little bit. I mean, we saw him just getting chunked under tower against the Syndra, and that just gives Jarvan free time and free pressure.
Oh, nice Death Sentence does land in the bottom lane, but a flash forward underneath the turret for another unleashed power takes Azir down to 150 health, but that's the flash blown by the Syndra. Flash still held on by Azir. Warwick's real close. Syndra only took a couple of tower hits and not really low, so should be safe as this Warwick looks to possibly gank. Walking over a pink ward, though, means he's going to get spotted out.
Yeah, you kind of feel like this Warwick may need to do something soon. It's not that he's been invisible in the map, it's just that his solo lanes are losing, at least in the mid lane. You know, the top lane's kind of hold even again until Renekton goes for another fight. But this Warwick needs to start getting active on the map. He's got the level 6, and they might start with this Infernal.
Yeah, they're looking for the Infernal Trank. They got it down to about half already, but Xayah doesn't have priority on this Lucian. And it looks like they're going to actually get scared off by the Syndra. The Syndra's super strong even without her ultimate. They're going to clear out this Vision. And it looks like it's just a leash from Warwick for this Infernal Drake. Not going to be able to actually turn things around. Nice stun from the Tara comes through. There's not a follow-up stun from the Syndra. Slow on this Thresh, but he's going to get away with that Blast Point. That's the early Infernal on top of 2 kills. Only 9.5 minutes into this match.
Yeah, and RNG for the Green Knights. It is a Mountain Drake up next if they can keep the pressure. Renekton actually took a tower shot very low. The flash from both top laners. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that was a lot of damage that came through from Noxie and Guillotine, but it actually wasn't going to be enough as it was a really smart dominance usage, the ultimate there from the Renekton, giving him the extra health pool to not actually fall to the ultimate from Darius. So Anaphase now on this Renekton has his Rage Bar stacked up, and there's no mana left for Darius. It's actually rather scary, but Warwick's playing towards the top side and running so fast with that passive of his W. He's going to get actually in range. He has his ultimate on cooldown, but he makes it all the way around. Doesn't matter if you don't have that spell available. Will actually Darius fall? He does! In a 1v2, the jungler has a lot of pressure. There's the knockup, not disabled. That's a great use of that Q spell from the Warwick. Got to make sure that he doesn't get knocked up. Closes that gap, gonna secure the kill on Renekton. Jarvan gets really low as well, even with the blue buff advantage, or excuse me, red buff advantage. Warwick playing that champion to the best of its possible abilities. Really well played.
Yeah, absolutely. A little unfortunate from Shuwan that he did die in that. And like you said, the 1v2, Renekton still picking up a kill. But you do not want to duel a Warwick 1v1, especially when the Warwick is low health. His kit just so useful for trading at the low health bar. So they get a trade. The Warwick is able to make something happen, and it might extend this game, but Syndra's just going in again.
Oh my goodness. No defensive summoner spell means Azir's gonna fall again to now a 2-0 Morello Nomicon completion for the Syndra. But actually, Warwick gets right over the wall. Nice heal and back off from Lupus here in the mid lane. He gets a nice knockback done after the Warwick suppress times out, but Syndra gets really low. That's gonna be her heal blown in the mid lane, forced to back off, meaning no additional pressure while Azir is off the map as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know she has that Morello Nomicon, so mana not hurting the most, but Jarvan was actually sitting at the blue buff, trying to give Syndra time to get over there, was forced to take it himself, so no blue buff for Lepus. We'll have to see if that may be a small advantage that Laughing at Onions can maybe finally start finding in this mid lane.
In top lane, it's still just a back and forth trade as Dominance does get popped by this Renekton. He's chasing him down as bottom lane's fighting as well, but up here in the top lane, nice heal from the Darius means he's going to be relatively safe on the turret. No wave for Renekton means that pressure's going to time out. But bottom lane getting more and more aggressive as you see. Xayah's health bar is really low, just exits the blinking range, but they're stuck underneath that turret. And Jarvan on the way, clearing out vision as he approaches. But Warwick's on the bottom side as well. We'll see who actually ends up making bottom lane show up in their favor.
Absolutely. It looks like Syndra's roaming down as well, though. This could be that kind of big play bot lane just for the team that I wasn't expecting to do it. We'll have to see if this works.
Flash and heal available for this Xayah. Nice ultimate pop there means everybody on blue team is actually going to be invulnerable. TV being channeled by the Azir. He does show up, and that's his target getting really, really low. 100 health remains though as he flashes away from the turret. Nice going there from the Lucian. Puts a lot of damage back down onto Azir. The knockup and this damage coming out from Syndra means they're going to lose 4 members at the 13-minute mark. Green Knights making a great play as 4 members make it on that side of the map.
I love Azir dives, Azir trying to defend dives, Taric diving. I love these team fights, Superman. It's amazing. We talked about the fact that these team fights were going to be explosive. That was kind of more of a skirmish, but it still showed all the tools these teams have. Jarvan ultimate, Taric ult to ignore towers, Syndra and Lucian just to provide burst, and meanwhile you've got some great disengage tools. If the Gael Goons, well, Darius, as we see Darius, I can't even get a point off Superman, this game is too much.
There's always so much action, Vic. So up here in the top lane, as you were mentioning, there's just these traits back and forth. Both of these top laners saying, I don't care. I'm going to fight you even if I think you may have a chance at killing me too. They're not playing risk averse. They're definitely wanting to take those extra steps to perhaps get more of a lead on their team or catch back up here on the side of Darius. He's stuck under his turret once again, though, and there's only a minute or so before that Mountain Drake will spawn. We'll see if that second dragon can go over to blue team as well.
Yeah, and you know, one thing from that fight bot lane, that dive, I would have loved is how kept that going in Gael Goons' favor. Xayah and Thresh both died before getting to use ultimates. I think that fight goes a lot closer if you have stuns and roots coming all over the place.
Indeed, but as a gank comes through in the top lane, just Warwick showing up, does use his ultimate, but misses with that skill shot. And there's going to be a double dash, getting the slice and dice through for Renekton to create that distance get away. But name of the game so far this afternoon has been this Syndra getting solo kills in the mid lane with that ultimate. High on Blazin, doing the fadeaway culling, tries to return the damage as he got hooked underneath the turret, forced back off the stun, gets played away, and now I picked Veil here on this target, forced to run away. There's a red buff on this Xayah, the chase is likely there. Death Sentence doesn't land over the wall, and they know that Syndra's on the way. Forces the ultimate out of the Xayah. She's gonna have to turn back and start farming that wave instead of looking to chase down that target for another kill.
Yeah, this is just going catastrophic for Laughing at Onion, just dying pretty much every time Lepus has that ultimate up. Such a big advantage for the Syndra right now. And high on Blazin, it just kind of maybe seeming a little cocky with his positioning, getting hooked and played under that tower. Maybe he'll learn a little bit after that one.
Yeah, it was interesting that in the early laning phase, I didn't see him using his dash as Lucian to create that gap close to follow up with some of the stuns that Tark did end up landing later on in that laning phase. But now that they've exited laning phase, he's playing more aggressive, and it actually turns around to bite him there in that trade near the second tier turret on bottom lane. But it looks like things go out here onto the Herald. We've already got 2 dragons in favor of Green Knights, and this looks going to be the last outer turret following in top lane as well. There's a nice stun from the Syndra, showing that they have the vision control in this area. It's going to be that Herald likely falling to blue team as well as a buff gets secured by this Warwick. I don't know if we'll be seeing a fight here. Things look rather scary as Renekton gets a nice wave. Nice double stun from the Syndra. Absolutely deletes the Azir. Nice flash from the Thresh. Gets him away from that Demacian Justice. Cataclysm could be so strong against these teams as there's only one member, unless you count the ultimate from, or a Q from the Warwick, there's only one member on Gael Goons' side that can actually exit the Cataclysm without a summon spell.
And that wasn't a fight, Superman. That was an execution. Azir just getting taken down again. Speaking of executions.
And these stuns actually come through. There's a death sentence in the kit of Thresh, but it's actually going to be named of the game for him as he gets nice stunned from this Syndra. Syndra just playing so well with that spell, hitting those orbs, getting those stuns, a double stun earlier to net them a kill, plus the summoner spell. And now that that flash was down by this Thresh, he falls to the next stun that lands as well. Lepus here in the mid lane doing so much work on the Syndra. The most CS in the game, most kills, 6-0-3, as now they're pressuring the first inhibitor turret here in mid lane.
Yeah, and Superman, it hasn't been quiet, but it's a 7,000 gold lead at 17.5 minutes here for the Green Knights. This has been almost clinical from this team.
Yeah, and I mean, what can Gael Goons even do now? They're down a massive amount of gold. 7,000 is a ton of gold. Only 18 minutes into this match, and the last 2 objectives, neutral objectives on the match, were just secured by the Green Knights. There's no Herald to take to maybe return onto some tower kills, get some global gold back for your team. The last dragon was just taken. There's minutes. 2 minutes until even Baron itself can respawn, and you have to try and bring something back because the next dragon's Infernal. There's 4 minutes until it shows back up, but if you give another Infernal on top of a mountain over to this blue team, I don't see a way back in it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be a matter of sitting at their tier 2 or inhib towers and kind of playing tower defense for 20 plus minutes, it feels like, just to get back in the game.
Yeah, I mean, if they can stall this out, there's a possibility that the Zir could scale. Oh my goodness, a flash forward, gets under the tower, the flash is blown by Darius as well, but he's gonna fall to this dominating Renekton in the top lane. It looks like Azir and Co are going to show up to try and cover this turret, but that Renekton showing his dominance, just like that ultimate is saying, up there in the top lane. Now 3-1, all just solo kills in general against this Darius.
Yeah, the solo lane showing up and showing off for the Green Knights as they have just been taking this game over and saying, what bot lane? We have a bot lane in this series? It's not even been needed, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, he's already taken his turret for himself. Oh, nice ultimate comes through from the Xayah. Actually dodges out the Syndra ultimate that would absolutely have taken Xayah down. So really nice use of Xayah ultimate there to actually save her own life, with heal being used as well to make sure that she doesn't actually fall. Keeping the pressure on the map, able to clear out these waves. The summoner spell usage there is really smart, but it could have been saved had she known and trusted herself to use that spell. The ultimate I'm referring to. But back talking about these solo laners, it's the Syndra and Renekton just running away with this game. Bot lane been relatively quiet, but this Renekton, this Syndra just taking over the game, choke holding Gael Goons back into their base. The only waves they're able to take are right on the edge of their base.
Oh, absolutely. And something about that little fight, we've seen Leptis play, oh, well, Warwick, you're in trouble.
Yeah, he does get stunned. Nice! Dark Passage comes through from the Thresh. It actually places it away, slightly away from the Warwick, making sure that there's a clickable lantern. It's the worst feeling when you throw a lantern right on top of your teammate and they can't click it because of enemy champions being in the way or wards being placed on top of it. But this vision is kind of dangerous, as Laughing at Onions is the one champion on Gael Goons that can actually exit Cataclysm. Does get away for relatively free, taking a little bit of damage, and it looks like Lucian's on the chase. A couple of auto attacks come through, but it's not going to be any damage to this Darius. He's got that Raptor Cloak. Enough armor to not take anything from a Lucian who doesn't have any armor pen. But here come those next neutral objectives. Baron's on the map. The Dragons respawning in 45 seconds. What can Gael Goons even do when they're stuck in their base?
Exactly. They're stuck in their base. If they leave their base, they lose a fight and possibly lose the game. If they don't leave their base, they're gonna lose a second Infernal Drake that already fed Syndra. Speaking
of exactly, Vic. Speaking of that fed Syndra, nice knock up there from the Jarvan, keeps Warwick in place, and there's gonna be a 5-orb Dark Sphere ultimate coming out here. Unleash power, just so much damage. With now on top of that original Morello combo, you've got that Andres Torment here for the Syndra, meaning those health stacking champions, that frontline, the Darius, the Warwick, who stack those health items are gonna take additional damage from that Torment. Baron's down to only 800 health. Nice dash in from these here, trying to get something. Gonna throw the Renekton over the wall, right on top of the carry. At least I had her ultimate to stay alive. That was relatively scary as Baron does get secured here by the Green Knights. Nice dark passage there by the Thresh. Giving the Lantern makes him get away as well. A little bit of peel here from the Thresh. He puts down the exhaust to try and slow away, but there's a red buff here. A couple more auto attacks to do it. That's the flash from him. Nice death sentence into the turret, and the Warwick ult misses because of the pull from this Darius with the last auto attack there. Scumbag Danger Perps, who did actually make the play out of happening for his team, but he's going to take that kill credit. 2-2-2 on this Thresh. He's been really good with his spells, but there's only so much a Thresh can do to bring back a team that's 10,000 gold behind.
That wasn't Scumbag Superman. He deserved that kill. He earned it. But yeah, exactly. What can Gael Goons still do in this game? Baron over to Green Knights, that second Infernal Drake. This Syndra at 22 minutes has 342 AP. She will one-shot anyone you want to point at. So
yeah, that kind of damage is absolutely insane. She could even be building a Void Staff at this point, as the only magic resist items are that Mercury Treads with an extra Null Magic Mantle and the single Null Magic Mantle in the inventory for this Thresh. So there's very, very little magic resist that's been secured with the small amount of gold that Gael Goons actually does have. And of it, there's so little actual magic resist that if Syndra's able to build a Void Staff early on, I mean, we say early on, but we're 24 minutes in. If she can build that, you're in big trouble here. If you're any members of Gael Goons, you just can't take it. Even the tanks are going to get absolutely 100 to 0 as this might be a dead Azir. Might, I don't even know why I said might. It's absolutely going to be a dead Azir as he falls once again 1 and 7. Not even having a health item in his inventory to deal with that kind of damage. If that was the flash consider, there's a lot of damage. There's going to be a nice dunk kill onto the Darius himself. Not going to get dunked in reverse. That Cataclysm getting the kill credit for this Jarvan.
Superman, I don't even think Lepus needed the ultimate to kill Azir there. I think one orb hit him dead. This is just, I can't even begin to describe kind of how well the Green Knights have played around the Syndra. 8-0-5 now, and just sieging their second inhib tower.
Yeah, and right here is actually where things might get a little hairy as that Syndra is down. Oh my goodness, the Matrix run! Nice opener from the Xayah, but she's still in the front line. Gonna get CC'd out, and there's another kill for that bad Syndra. As now they've got Baroned up wave with a cannon approaching. It looks like they're gonna abandon that wave and go mid lane to pick up that inhibitor. There's gonna be 2 inhibitors falling 25 minutes into this match, and a massive wave has stacked down here in that bottom lane. A really well played stacking their side waves so that they can rotate over and now Baron up what looks to be a triple wave with another one to back it up, showing up in about 10 seconds with this 8,000 gold lead. They're pressuring into onto the third lane. If they could get 3 inhibitors, when you can get doubled up super minion waves to just enter the enemy space this early into the match, you can pretty much laugh and just sit back. Alt F4 and the game will end for you because those minions are just so incredibly strong.
Yeah, Green Knight showing resistance is futile in this game and maybe in this tournament. You know, this is one of those statement games as they go for the Syndra and cannot.
Yeah, the Darius actually ends up getting back to him, but there's going to be the Syndra getting her first death after securing her 10th of the game. And there's a lot of damage that's being returned by the Xayah, but she doesn't have her ultimate, doesn't have any summoner spells. I don't think she can actually defend this. A flash forward, that's going to be a stun into another stun. The Darius, the Renekton's going to give his life as he gets pulled with the death sentence onto the Nexus Laser, but those kills mean nothing as those minions are hitting that Nexus. Nexus explodes, that's going to be the kills. And the game secured by Green Knights here. Gael Goons tried to pull it back, but really there were no win conditions remaining once there was everything taken on the map.
Absolutely. That fight started so quickly. I just kind of started play-by-playing Superman because all of a sudden they were trying to jump on Syndra. They had the right idea, but it felt like 10 minutes too late. Like you said, Lepus got his 10th kill before he died. And what I was trying to say before that game started, this felt like a statement game from Green Knight saying, we are here, and they feel confident in their play.
Yeah, they played confident, they looked confident, and if you look at those damage charts, the solo laners that we talked about for Green Knights putting on a clinic of how to carry games there. Both of them around 20,000 damage Delta champions in only 26 minutes of a match. That's massive damage, and they just put on a show. The next highest damage just being around the 12.5, 13,000 marks for other champions in the game. That's a massive disparity with these solo laners just throwing out the pain. So really well played there by those solo laners, putting on a show for us to watch.
If you want 1 or 2 numbers that describe how this game went for the Gael Goons, the Azir did 400 more damage than the Green Knight's Taric.
Oh man, that's gotta hurt. I mean, how long did he spend outside the death chamber? It'd be difficult to tell whether or not he spent more time in or out of the death chamber in this match. There's nothing he can do. And it's not really talking about the player. It's just not being able to deal with a Syndra that has that much damage and who's playing that well.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Azir played the early game as well as he could, but as soon as that Syndra got rolling, as soon as that first blood came in, there was just so little he can do. That's one of the issues with Azir. We talked about the blind pick all the way back in Champ Select, and it became the focal point of the game.
It did. Really well played there. Really great points. Both these teams putting their hearts out onto the Rift, but ultimately it is the win there for the Green Knights. But thanks for joining us, you guys. You can catch more action every week here on the stream at 3:30 on Wednesday with Overwatch. And then, of course, joining us here as we have this week for Thursday's League of Legends. So hit that follow button for Twitch and stay up to date. Again, I've been Superman, and I've been joined here by Vic Sharp. We want to thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.